My next guest is a dad, a CEO, and a big fan of gin. He's spent much of his 20 years with one hand in marketing and the other in talent attraction and engagement, and both feet in leadership. He runs a marketing or employer branding operation in the APAC and the UK for organisations including Guardian News and Media, Hobson, and Hanson Wade. He lives and breathes employer branding and culture shaping. When he isn't doing that, his current hobbies include finger painting, 5 a.m. ballet, and building dens. He also has strong beliefs about the importance of drinking wine. Mark Puncher, welcome to Talent Blazers.
Thanks very much for having me, David. I'm very pleased to be here.
I'm really looking forward to unpacking this episode. We're really focused on the importance of one-on-one interviewing. I suppose we've got a little bit to get through before we get there. But for those who don't know who you are, Mark, can you tell us a little bit about the agency you represent?
Sure. Look, Employer Branding Australia, I created it myself around 5 years ago on a belief that this stuff really matters and that it can be done a lot better. We're really not very similar to any agency I've ever known. We're sort of a hybrid organization. We're a combination of a people and culture listening and strategy business, so consultancy and advisory, and a brand marketing and content, I guess, agency. I'm loath to say it because it isn't that pure play agency model. We start with people and culture and strategy and listening, and then we apply brand and marketing principles. And the emphasis is all on authenticity. Understand your people, articulate why they should work for you, and then bring that to life and show the world.
And people come to your agencies for a variety of reasons. We're going to unpack EVP for now, which is a really awesome topic, I believe. There's quite a few myths. For those who are interested in building out a new EVP, what are the types of people that you're seeing approaching your agency?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's the classic is the people and culture director or the TA director or TA manager, depending on the size of the organization, the HR manager. Marketing and comms are increasingly coming to the table, which is exciting to see. And I think when they come to the table alongside people and culture, that's where the gold is, because you need that collaboration. I'm also seeing, this is fascinating, the last 12 months, it's CEOs and GMs and other C-suite. So they are now getting the memo on the need to be more strategic and creative around talent acquisition and employee experience and employee engagement. So they're all coming in droves, actually, at the moment. It's a big topic.
Yeah, and what is the importance of marketing being involved, or even I'll change that, not necessarily being involved, but leading the conversation? What are you seeing as the distinct differences when they're involved?
Look, I think this starts with the fundamental that any seriously great recruiter knows that there's an element of sales in there that's very strong. The right kind of sales, the lovely kind of sales. If you can't get excited about sales, don't do recruitment. But they also understand that it's not just sales. It's not just find a candidate, fill a role. It is about marketing. It is about brand. So a huge part of recruitment is you need a deep understanding of brand and marketing. So when marketing gets involved in that, when comms gets involved in that, it can be super powerful. The biggest challenge we see, though, in that space is marketers who don't get people and culture, who don't understand workforce strategy. I need to be absolutely clear in terms of the skills required for great recruitment campaigns and ongoing employer branding. Of course, marketing is vital, but this needs to start and end with people and culture and workforce strategy. What is our strategy as an organization? How does our workforce strategy and our people and culture strategy play into that? And your employer branding strategy needs to feed directly there with marketing and brand principle and skill applied, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for anyone who's interested in building an EVP, and maybe it's a refresher, it could be, or it's something that's right from scratch. Who are you advocating to be part of the project team? There might be someone who's leading it, and you've described that, but who should be part of the project team to really get it off the ground?
Yeah, it's a great question. It massively depends on the organization. If we've got people listening with smaller organization with fewer leaders and fewer people, you'll know that some of that stuff that applies to large organizations is redundant here. Broadly speaking, it is very, very important that you have Of course, the person who's pivotal to this, or the people that are pivotal, somebody from TA or people in culture or both. Marketing and comms, it's wonderful if they've at least got some representation there. You also do need some sponsorship from the exec, and so we'll often find we might have the TA director or TA manager or the senior recruiter or the senior people and culture person running the project with us, and then we'll have their boss, the director of people and culture or the CHRO, really invested in being involved. The key thing is understanding where and when they need to be involved and where we need to bring them in. One thing I'll say, absolutely, this is very important. Your exec, and we insist on this before anybody chooses us, and we start and we say yes, okay. We need to know the exec understands what they've bought, and that they understand, and critically, this is the point with us, is this isn't about some PR and some gloss in a campaign. An EVP is never a campaign. If the exec does not want to truly listen to their people and to the market and understand and learn and to improve the organization, it's a waste of time. You'll actually take yourselves backward in terms of the connection with your people.
Yeah. Okay. So that's foundation conversation that you're wanting to have with them. How do you prevent executives who are all bought in being too inspirational?
Good question. Look, I love inspiration. I love the aspiration, and it should absolutely feature in the EVP, but it needs to be labeled. I remember a conversation we had. We worked with an organization, a superb organization. They'd run fast. They'd grown fast. When we got to the EVP playback, one of the things was around opportunities and progression and growth and so on. And this is the key thing about learning development. This is the thing about EVPs. You can say growth or learning development or progression. It can mean so many different things. So if you're just writing that in your job ad, it doesn't mean anything. I remember playing it back to them, and I said, look, here, learning development and growth, it's all about these opportunities flying around your head, hitting you in the face every other day. And it's about grabbing it out of the air, going and making it happen. So learning by doing, by being the person who owns it, who cares enough to do something more and different. And the CEO said, oh, yeah, great. Can we also put something about our personalized learning pathways? And I said, no. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, you don't have them yet. Oh, no, but we're going to. So what I said is, well, let's look forward to the day when that can be in there saying, and here's a great example of the ongoing personalized learning. But in the meantime, let's talk about the work you're going to do to get there. This is what we're working on right now. Two things about that. Number one, don't lie, don't make it up. Even if you wish it was a better reality, tell the truth, because candidates, if you bring candidates in on a lie or on an oversell, it won't work for you. And your own people will revolt or spit their tea out and laugh when they see it. Critically, though, what we found is when you talk about the reality and the work in progress, it's an amazing way to actually drive more attraction from the people that you need. So if you've got a tired team and you want fresh energy, tell them that. Tell these candidates that, we love our people, they're amazing, they work so hard, but we could do with some new blood and some fresh ideas. And the reason that, when you get to the interview stage, the reason you're in the room is we think you'll be great in the job, but we also think you'll be brilliant culturally in the team. That excites the right people. And somebody who is feeling exhausted and doesn't want to bring that energy, they'll opt out, and that's a great result.
Yeah, and I agree. And I saw something recently where a company was trying to attract females into engineering spots. It's typical, typical task employer brand are usually tasked with that in graduates, but their percentage was quite small, but aspirationally they wanted to be somewhere in a few years, and I think that's perfectly fine to aspirationally say, well, we want to be at 25% female engineer, to have a 25% team of female engineers by within a couple of years. And I don't think that's a bad message to be pushing out.
And you know what, David? Here's the thing. That's a great example. So what normally happens when a male-dominated industry, an employer says, right, we need to get more women, let's say. They go, right, let's go and, who have we got? Oh, yeah, we've got Sarah. She's one, they've got 3 women in a company of 500 people. So they get photos of them and they put them in there, and they're not actively lying, but they're sort of implying, look, there's women here. That's insane. That's insane, because these women are going to get there and go, where are the women, right? So instead of that, what I'd love to see is I'd love to see a picture of Sarah on that job ad, and I'd love to have a little arrow next to her and saying, there aren't enough Sarahs in our business. Come and help us out. Come and help us become truly diverse. Um, if you are doing photo shoots and you're going, oh gosh, we've got to get we haven't got anyone with a disability. Let's get Kevin. He's got a wheelchair. It's obscene. It's disrespectful and it's wrong. And you're missing an opportunity. If there's stuff that you're not strong at, if there's stuff that you're on the journey on, tell that story. We have in all of our EVPs, we'll pretty much always have either what we call internally an elephant statement, which is the elephant in the room, the stuff
Yep.
your people know, and that as soon as someone joins you, they're going to find out about that. You need to have the conversation early, or we'll have a journey statement, which is we've done a lot of good stuff, been great, but there's been some challenges too. Here's what's happening next, whether it's under new management or whether it's we're not, we've burnt out half our people or we haven't always had the best reputation. And this is a big moment for us of turning that around.
So, so how do you think about interviewing a diverse range of people to be able to collect that data, which is so valuable for you then to be able to get that EVP? Because I can imagine that if there are only 3 people who are female in an engineering team, you do want to hear from them, but it's disproportionate to what their actual EVP is, and that could be the same with ethnicity, with age as well, not just gender. What is the importance of having diversity included in the EVP?
Oh, look, it's massively important. The biggest question that not enough, in my opinion, not enough agencies ask right at the beginning is, what are the problems you're trying to solve? Our COO, Dave Concannon, will chew your ear off about this stuff. It's what are the opportunities you're trying to grab? What are the problems you're trying to solve? What is your reality? And again, not in a campaign context, not, oh, we want to raise our brand awareness from an employer. It's not enough. It's okay. We've got 3 women in a 500-person organization. So if you start with that saying, well, absolutely, we need to listen to those 3 women. We need to understand, but we need to also understand what women externally want and why have you been unable to attract those people? What has actually gone on? So we're looking at the workforce data. We're looking at the strategic data. Then you can, and you're sort of saying, so what is your intended EVP outcome? What does the EVP need to say? But what are the conversations that you need to have in market to talk about that? So we will ask the women obviously about their experiences. We'll also ask the men about their perspectives and experiences. Critically, though, when we do an EVP discovery, it's highly structured, very scientific in terms of, we're not academic sampling here. We're not saying, you must give us a load of people who hate you as well as people who like you. But we do need people to be honest and truthful. So there's a lot of science and structure, but there's a lot of really organic smarts, I suppose, and actually saying to people, look, open up, share with us. All of our research where we can make it so is confidential. When we do an EVP, we play it back to the employees who participated before it's signed off, saying, did we capture this right? Was this the right thing? Is there anything that is triggering for you that isn't right? But the point there is, if you're saying, well, it might be about First Nations people, if you've hardly got any First Nations individuals in your organization, the first question is, why not? And do you want more? And what does that look like? But critically, when we do a process like this, we do it very, very in depth. It's not just a quick briefing and a focus group to justify some creative idea we come up with. That's not how EVPs should be done. That won't convert. What we do is we say, what did we find? What is the narrative of this organization? What is the story of this organization? Why should people come and be here? What does that feel like? But also, why are people hesitating? Why are people leaving? Why are people staying but tapping out? Why are people frustrated? And when you can really challenge an organization like that and open up the conversation, the key benefit of an EVP process is actually the organization improves with its people.
It sounds like you're advocating for exit interviews to be part of the EVP. Maybe we can just take a step back and you can share where are all the sources that you're looking at to make up that EVP. Surveys would be one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we start any process by sending the client a long list of stuff and then saying anything else you want to throw at us. And some clients have very little, some have a lot. That is, obviously, and it's not just data, right? We need to understand their organizational structure. We need to understand how leadership works. We need to understand the organization's history, recent history as well as past. Particularly those tech startups and scale businesses, you need to understand the origin story. Many organizations it's the same. But when we get into the data, of course, we want employee engagement data. Of course, we want, pulse data, etc. We want exit interviews. But you also have to know how to treat that. So we take any survey data like that or exit interview data with a huge pinch of salt.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have a huge pinch, Tommy, but it's a lot of salt. Um, and we and because you can't just go, oh, yeah, that's what they said, therefore that's the thing. We use that sort of existing data as a benchmark and a sanity check, and to build some hypotheses that we then test. Critically, though, in terms of other data sources, your people are the biggest avenue you have. Now, of course, we can go out and talk to candidates in the market, past applicants, we can talk to, prospective employees and so on. Be careful with that, because, I've heard this thing around, we have a panel of people that we ask about things. Be very, if you're asking 7 random people or 7 people who happen to be in a sphere, what they think about the brand, I'd be very worried about that if you're using that as a major data point. But critically, discovery sessions, engagement sessions with employees, with managers, with leaders, including supervisors, leading hands, more junior managers on the ground, because they're the one who usually look after the most people and dominate their experience, their employee experience. But it's those one-to-one interviews, which I know we're going to get onto, to really combine those in with the research so that we can get the depth and the truth, and start to understand how these themes are actually experienced in different roles and different locations within the business.
Okay, so you're weighting the one-on-one interviews. Let's unpack that a little bit better, a little bit more. Who are the people you're advocating for that you round up for these one-on-one interviews? Are they the high achievers within the organisation?
We tend not to prescribe it too much. Some organisations choose to do it on an open basis and ask people to put their hands up, but we'll also be looking at that to make sure there's not major skew in what we're hearing. But quite often, the fundamental piece, whether it's interviews, discovery groups, whatever, is we need to see a representation first and foremost in different role types or parts of the business. So you need to understand, like if you are a disability support services organisation, a support worker who's working with one client in a mall and in their home and in a park every day, versus a receptionist in the head office versus a corporate strategist, fundamentally different employee experiences. So we need to see that good split. So that's the first thing. The next thing, obviously, is locations. But beyond that, it's about the diversity of people. In terms of level engagement, I make no apology about saying, if you've got people that you would clone if you could turn into more employees, I want to speak to them. But they're the ones that we go really hard with. Like, they'll be saying loads of great stuff, and I'll say, yeah, okay, I'm not sure I believe you. Tell me the truth. And then we'll get there. If they tell me the good stuff, then I'll say, right, now tell me the bad stuff. If you love this place this much, how can we improve? And if you leave, why will it be? It's asking the harder questions and taking people deeper. What I also love, and we've had a lot of this, where you get an employee who's super disgruntled or who's unhappy. The skill of the researcher and the brand researcher at that stage is to acknowledge that and to ensure that person feels heard, and that it's been recorded and captured, to probe on it, not to gloss past it. We're not all just looking for good news here. You often use the phrase, I'm going to take you into the weeds, because or let me, take me into the weeds. I want to hear it.
So just touch on that. So how do you go about building so much trust that someone internally turns around and tells you how bad it is at the company?
Do you know what?
Are you a priest?
I've actually found I'm not a priest, but sometimes I feel like I'm a professional. I guess that what's really interesting that I've learned over the years, and I never thought, I never expected this, and I thought, oh, this must be a fluke. But I've done a lot of these processes and spoken to a lot of people, and my team have. Being external, if you are good at what you're doing, you know what you're doing, is actually a huge advantage versus being the people and culture manager or the recruiter or whatever. It does become a bit of a confessional. And do you know something else I've noticed, David, is we've done some stuff in person and it's worked really well. But actually, overwhelmingly, phone interview where they can't see you and where you can't see them actually tends to work better for many people.
Okay.
Because they're able to just talk on the phone. Especially, bear in mind, we're not talking about always 23-year-old PR grads in Sydney or Melbourne here. We're talking, sometimes it's road crews, sometimes it's support workers, sometimes it's hairdressers, retail assistants. And so these are people who tend to be more comfortable if they can just dial in on the phone and have a chat. The way that you build the rapport, first of all, you make it safe from the very start, and you make it very clear that the organization wants truth and is protecting that. And again, part of the challenge with employee engagement data, how many employees genuinely fill that in thinking this is definitely going to be anonymous?
Oh, I know.
How many fill it in thinking they
I
definitely
agree.
need to challenge and say, and how many of them actually think this will
Yeah.
genuinely make any difference at all? Most don't. So what we're very good at, my team is amazing at this, is straight away putting it out there, using their character. Some of them are very quiet, some of them are louder, and so on. But using that to build rapport and to build trust, and say this is why we're doing this. We say things like, "Hey, if there's great stuff, we want to hear it, but actually, we also really want you to challenge the organization to be better, because that's how we're going to become a better place to work and to attract more talent, and so on." So we build that rapport there. Critically, you need huge empathy to do this stuff well. You need to. One of the biggest pitfalls in this, I think this is. I know I'm waffling a bit, but this is quite.
No, real. It's really interesting.
What an inexperienced employer brand researcher does often is they, oh, by the way, we have interview guides, but we don't have scripts. We'll read a little bit. We'll have some guides for when someone's starting out, but critically, what I see people do when they're inexperienced is they have their questions that they're thinking about, and they'll ask the question, and someone will reply, and they'll go, right, thanks very much, next question. You've missed all the gold, because the first time you ask a question, in most cases, they either tell you what they think you want to hear, or they don't tell you anything meaningful. When someone says to you, how are you going? Who doesn't say, yeah, I'm fine, thanks, I'm all right, thanks. But when you say, oh, really? You look a bit down, or, so you'll say to somebody, oh, why do you work here? They'll say, I want to make a difference. And I love the people. That's what everybody says. So what my people are saying, and what I'm saying to these interviewees is okay. So you want to make a difference. What does that? Everyone says that. What does that actually look like? What does making a difference mean to you? And then can you give me an example of making a difference? Can I give you one story that has stayed with me forever, that brings that to life?
Sure.
This was somebody who worked for me when I used to do employer branding for someone else, and we were talking to. Funny enough, I mentioned disability earlier on. We were talking to a disability support worker. So picture this: you go to a mall and you see somebody with a disability, and somebody sitting with them, empowering them, supporting them, helping them. Maybe they're having some food, maybe they're walking through a park, whatever. That person is usually on minimum wage or very low wage.
Yeah.
They work completely remotely in the home of the person or with the person. They're working with one person, their client, they're with them all the time, or for all the hours they work. Their manager is at the end of an email, but that occasionally, but not with them. They don't have a team around them. This is a hard gig, right? One of my team members was interviewing this person to try and uncover an EVP about this disability organization. And she said, why do you work here? Why do you choose to do this job here? And the support worker said, oh, I want to make a difference, right? And that's what everyone says. But my employee said, and I'm very proud of her for this, and I'm glad she said it. She said, what does that mean? What does a good day look like for you, where you feel you've made that difference? And this support worker, who's not a poet, not a CEO, not on massive salary and so on, does work that's far more important than those people. But she paused and she said, well, let me give you an example. My client has quite significant needs. And last Tuesday at 11 a.m., and she knew the day and time, he learned how to use a fork properly for the first time. And then she paused and said, we've been working on it together for 2.5 years. And in those two statements, she captured so much of what it means to be a support worker with a client with significant needs in that environment. She said, what for us is a very common thing that we just take for granted, for him was a life goal, and it was a massive enabling function, a massive enabling thing for him. She said it took 2.5 years. There are lots of great support workers who are brilliant with groups of people with disabilities, or great with different people, but couldn't sit for 2.5 years and help someone use a fork, right? And empower them to use a fork. Certainly I couldn't do it. I don't have that, I don't have those qualities. But the most important thing she said is we've been working on it together. Now, if anyone who knows disability, listens to this, they'll know what I'm talking about here. She could have just shoveled the food into his mouth for those 2.5 years. It would have been a lot easier for her.
Yeah.
But instead she didn't. She empowered him. And that's so powerful.
And so asking that question and that follow-up question is so important. And I can see that's like you've squeezed the juice there, and it's really meaningful, and it's like that aha moment. How for someone like that, how does the business introduce you to them
Yeah.
so that they are feeling comfortable. Are you prepping? You're getting their email address or telephone number, you're calling them out of the blue, or is the business sharing with them that they're on this journey and they want them to be authentic and opening that up? And then also, are you actually sending through the questions to them before the meeting just to give them a bit of a heads up?
Absolutely not. So whether it's an EVP,
why not?
Okay, whether it is an EVP discovery session or whether it's a video that we're producing for content for marketing, and so on, whether it's whatever, no actors, no scripts on your videos, no preparation, no makeup,
no heads up on what they're what you're going to be asking.
We tell them a bit of general stuff around. Look, we want to talk to you about why you choose to work here, what you care about, what can be improved. So we'll tell them
a prep,
but we will not give them a list of questions, even something approaching that. The reason for that is that over preparation. If you're nervous about this stuff, that stuff makes you more nervous. I don't care what anybody says. We've seen it a million times. What they do need is to be reassured that we're not going to put them on the spot, that nothing's going to be revealed that is problematic, that, that to them, that it's not, we've had a couple in the early days who thought this was a meeting, they were going to be made redundant or something by me. I mean, I don't have that power. So it's making it a safe environment in advance. To answer the full question, the initial question you asked, there's a lot of places where if you wanted to, you could cut cost and drive up profit if you're the agency by shortcuts. We refuse to do that, and that's not me pitching. That's not me a sales pitch. There are things you cannot. If you want the EVP to be accurate, if you want it to be authentic, and if you want, and we set a goal that any employee who engages with us for an interview or discussion group or anything like that, as a result of the engagement, they feel more heard and listened to, and they believe that the organization is working to improve things more than they did before they started. If you want those things to happen, you can't cut corners. So we give all of the copy that we recommend they send out to the employees. They can obviously rebadge it and personalize it as much as they want. We then, from the interview point of view, they will then send that out. There'll be a link in there where the employee can dial it, can click the link and book in a time that's suitable for them. And they already know our name, they already have our details, and so on. And then at that point, that becomes an open conversation. We'll obviously give guidance on, try and be somewhere where you're not worried about being overheard and things like that. We make commitments to people. In an interview, we say this will be entirely confidential. We won't be sharing anything negative that you're challenging that you say with your name on it. And if we think you could be identified, we'll have that conversation with you and so on. In discovery groups, we say this isn't anonymous because there's a group of people in the room or the rooms if it's online. But we won't be sharing that stuff, but be aware. Great example, David. We actually say, right, we're in a group, but we're actually going to put our email addresses into the chat, or we've sent these to you by email. If you are sitting here thinking this is nonsense, this isn't true, no one's telling the truth, or if you think actually there's something I'd like to share but I'm not comfortable, email us. And you know what? They do. And critically, we're not doing that to try and dig the dirt on the employer. We're doing that with the employer's blessing. We start with that exec team and say, do you genuinely want to improve? Do you really want to know? Can you put your shoulders back and listen and learn? Do you really want to improve this organization? Because if you do, we can't do 100% Kool-Aid. It's 10, 15% Kool-Aid, and then let's get some truths behind it.
Well, look, it's been a really meaningful episode. I feel like the secret sauce is making people feel really secure and heard in a really safe place. And you can see why creating an EVP is such an important step in attracting the right people to the organization. Mark Puncher, thanks for joining me on Talent Blazers.
Thanks very much for having me, David.